Viewers, welcome to today's episode. Our discussion today is still a continuation of a project initiation. So we'll be looking at a business case. We'll start our discussion on business case and see how far we can go. Business case is basically a document, a way of selling a project's ideas to sponsors. Business case is expected to be able to present the projects to the sponsor in such a way that the sponsor will be able to see through how the project will align with the business goal or its investment goal. To us, in physical development, talking about real estate investment or property developments, right? It should be a document to present the project to our sponsors, venture capitalists, or investors, so as to be able to see how the project will perform and achieve their investment objectives. Not business objective now. I mean, where is a business, where is a project done for the purpose of a business, then it will be to align how the project will achieve the business goal. But in this case, is how the project will achieve the investment goal. The objective of the investor, how such objective will be met. And that is very, very important. Viewers, that is very, very important. That's very germane. That will determine the success or failure of the business idea or business concept, a project concept that the business case is presenting. Because if the business case fails to achieve aligning the project to the investor's objective or goal, then chances are that it will fail to attract funds. So before we go into why does a business case fail, let's quickly look at what's the essence of a business case. With business case, we'll be able to sell project idea, present the project idea either to financial, who is equally a stakeholder and is equally an investor, is only that their return is interest, right? Or to a sponsor or to investors generally. Right? So, business case is will be able to show what is in it. Why should they do that investment? And why should they not? And it will be a basis for investment decision. That's very, very important. A well-prepared, well-articulated business case must be informative as to whether to go ahead with the investment or not. And it should not be doctored. It should not be motivated. It should not be unduly influenced. Just because you want to justify the project's idea, no. Or project concept, no. It should be done and done based on market reality and the project reality, what the market can support. So what are the features of business case? A business case is supposed to be a project-based document. Project-based in the sense that it's going to relate with or to specific projects or project idea and be able to show the details of the project and what will be, and contain a kind of, in my language, performance analysis of the project. Because as a matter of fact, what is important to the audience who is going to study the business case is what is in it in that project for them, not what is in the business case, but what is in the project that the business case is trying to present for the investor or for the audience. I say audience here because it's not in all cases that it will be investors, maybe venture capitalists, might even be financiers, because every stakeholders want to see what is in need for them in the project. So a business case should be a project-based document, prepared based on the projects and the reality of the project. So part of the feature is that you should be able to let the investor know what it will require to achieve the project in terms of cost. And what will be the form of benefits that committing that kind of capital into the project, what form of benefits will it attract? So with that, again, it will call on the need for what we call cost-benefit analysis. But for economic goods, economic projects that are meant for income generation or for sale in the market for capital gain, beyond cost-benefit analysis, it will be proper appraisal, which is the viability analysis. Yes, cost-benefit analysis is only a form of viability analysis, but it's proper to say now you want to analyze the risk-return characteristics of the project, so that you'll be able to know what will be the performance of that project. And again, the part of the features of a business case is to meet the stakeholders' need. It's very, very important. A business case is not a document done in isolation. It has to be done having in view or in focus the target audience, having in view or in focus the reader of it. So it's a document that will be done with foreseeability. As you are preparing the business case, you are foreseeing who are the stakeholders, who will the business case be of interest to, and how will the business case meet their need. So that with these basic features, then the business case will be very, very useful, will be a useful document and a meaningful document to the stakeholders. Now, before I go to the contents of the business case, let me mention that for a business case, the stakeholders will vary. It's not compulsory and not usual that you have the same stakeholders for all forms of projects, because the delivery process of the project will introduce one form of stakeholder or the other. And even the finance model will introduce one form of stakeholder or the other. Like, for example, before I leave that, you can have, if you are doing a JV project, for example, joint venture project, you have one partner there as a stakeholder. But where you are, it's not a joint venture project, there won't be a land partner. So in that case, there is already difference in stakeholder. In a situation where you are funding with equity capital, you won't have a stakeholder as a debt capital provider. You can have equity capital provider who are stakeholder like venture capitalists, and in a situation where you are using consortium funding, for example, money that you have generated from other business and you are now investing in real estate, you will not even have venture capitalists. So there are a series of stakeholders that can have, and we in a situation where you have combinations. You integrate finance models. You can have venture capitalists. You can have debt capital provider. You can have land partners, right? Just as all other stakeholders will be there in terms of government, for example, in terms of service providers, contractors, and what have you. So, meeting stakeholders' need is a very important feature of business case. On this note, please don't go away. After this short break, we continue our discussion. Welcome back. So now we proceed with discussing the contents of a business case. These are basic and specific contents that the business case should contain. Don't forget, viewers, we are looking at business case from the perspective of real estate development, more specifically property development. And to justify or to be able to portray the features that I've mentioned earlier before we went on break, the business case must necessarily contain the following. The first one is that the business case should be able to present the project details. No matter how high level, there must be project details. Essentially, the project concept must be brought to fore for the target audience or stakeholders to appreciate. It must be sufficient enough, must be detailed enough to be as explicit as possible for the stakeholders or target stakeholders to be able to appreciate the business idea in the business case. And in this case, we are talking of the project details. Okay, with these project details, the project concept, project location, very important, and some basic project features in terms of facilities, in terms of target audience, in terms of target markets. All these are very, very important. In terms of title information, when it has to do with land or investment in landed property, whatever forms of real estate investments, title information is very, very important and must be so presented in such a way that is supportive of the investment capital or the investment idea. So the first leg, the first thing to contain in the business case for property or real estate development is the project details. And part of that, I emphasize the aspect of the project concepts and the project and location, the project market itself, target audience and the market, target market and the project will satisfy, and title information. This is very, very important. Description of the market that the project will meet its need is equally very, very important. Another important part of the contents is project feasibility. It's important to consider how realizable or actualizable or practicable the project is. And this is very important to be expressed, to be demonstrated in the business case. Because if the idea is not realizable or actualizable, then it's dead from the beginning. So project feasibility is very important. As we proceed in our future episodes, by the grace of God, we'll pick project feasibility to discuss in detail what it entails and what should be done, how it will lead to investment decisions. But for the purpose of this discussion, one of the contents of business case is project feasibility. And again, here, feasibility does not mean viability. It's only to demonstrate that the project idea is practicable and is actualizable. That's project feasibility. This is another important context. And apart from that, even though it's actualizable, is it economically wise to do it? An investor wants to know before committing his capital, either debt capital or equity capital, into such an investment. If it's not economically wise, if it should not justify the commitment, the allocation of such resources, no investor will go into it. So in the light of this, it's important to show how the investment, the capital will perform in the projects. And this is very important to equally foresee likely stakeholders so as to ensure that this viability analysis is done to reflect or to satisfy or to meet the perspective of each stakeholders. This is very important. Where you have different stakeholders, every stakeholder wants to see what is in it for him or her, and therefore there must be the viability should be able to show that, so that everybody will be satisfied with the business case. And that is the aspect of viability. Again, as we proceed in our discussion, we'll pick viability analysis to discuss what it entails, how to conduct viability analysis, what are the challenges, how viability analysis will lead to investment decision. Now, again, another important aspect is the risk analysis. Every investor knows that there's trade-off between risk and return as far as investment is concerned. So, basic performance indicators of investment is risk, comprises risk and return. Therefore, is important to analyze for the business case to show the analysis of the risk as could be derived or could be observed from the performance of the investment. Because in this case, just try to measure in an event of any deviation from expectations, what happens to the performance of the investment. And the delivery capacity. What do you mean by delivery capacity here? Ability, that is the technical pre-qualification of the promoter of the project. The technical qualification of the developer or the promoter of the project. So as to be able to say, yes, this might be a project that is actualizable, it might be a project that will be viable, it might be a project that the risk level falls within the tolerant level of the investors. What happens where the promoter or the developer does not have the capacity to execute? As a matter of fact, this delivery capacity will equally contribute to what we call project feasibility. As we proceed, we will say that. So that is of essence to showcase that delivery capacity of either the developer or the investor, so as to guarantee that the projects can actually be achieved. Then financial acceptability. This will call for ratio analysis and all forms of analysis for the stakeholder to see whether the performance of the project is acceptable to them, whether it means their targets, returns, criteria. So this is very important. So with all these contents and a host of all other embellishment, pardon my words, a host of all other embellishment, I mean supporting figures, facts and figures, right? You have a robust business case. And with this business case, you have what to sell your product or your project to investors or to financiers, whether equity financiers or debt capital financiers. Now, having said this, and the fact that everybody that has capital actually wants to grow the capital, including banks with funds. How bank creates money is by granting loan and making surplus out of it. So bank is more interested in keeping the capital in the force. Banks want to release the money too. Just like venture capital is interested to give you the money for project delivery because of what is in it for him. But often we see a lot of failure on the part of business case. Why does business case fail? Why does business case fail to attract sponsor or capital from venture capitalists? So I want to quickly give some reasons out of experience, out of feedbacks, why business case fail to attract sponsor or to attract capital from the public, from venture capitalists, from investors, from what have you, even from banks or from financial institutions. Right? And these factors include the following. The first one is the fact that you have what we call non-conformity with project reality, where the business case is so prepared such that it does not reflect project reality. So the stakeholders, the financial, the sponsor cannot feel the project, cannot feel it as business, cannot see the reality in it. The another important one is where it does not address the stakeholders' need. Even for bank providing fund, it must address their need. They want to see how their capital will perform in the projects and the delivery process and the project in the market, and how the capital will come back to them with their interest. They want to see it. So where there will be debt capital fund from financing, is important for the project and the business case to equally meet the need of such stakeholder, because it's already foreseen. Again, if it is a joint venture, the need of a land partner will have to be met. Where is venture capital? All sorts of stakeholders. The business case must address their needs. They must see what is in their business or in that project for them. Again, it must not lack or appear to lack what we call the reality of work, where it lacks reality and only appears as academic exercise. A lot of people will sit down and still come up with business case, particularly when we talk about analysis. You just write narratives without supporting data. I mean realistic data. You just write narrative stories just because, I mean, what you extract from textbooks, no. Or journals, no. They must conform with the reality of what we want to do. They should not appear as academic exercise. And conforming with reality requires that it must not fail from adopting what we call best practice. Right? You must be able to demonstrate best practice in the business case. Best practice of presenting, best practice of approaches, techniques that we use. It must be such that we are able to use, best practice in terms of viability techniques. Things that represent the state of knowledge. And when analyzing, our analysis must be so systematical, so logical, that logical and conclusive inferences can be done out of it. And we should be guided with the principles behind analysis and behind what constitutes basis of decision making. As we proceed to talk about each and every one of these issues, we will try as much as possible to be so practical for us to be able to appreciate why we need all these things in our business case, and to be able to now come up with business case that will meet our need. Before I go, let me just give us one feedback. Out of the feedback I had, a financial was in my office who is in business of facilitating foreign capital into the country. And his concern that he registered with us was that the problem they have been having facilitating foreign capital has to do with business case, the comprehensiveness of our business case, and the features of the business case. And most of what he mentioned happened to be part of what I've discussed here. One significant aspect of it is lack of best practice. Not adopting contemporary techniques in analysis. Working as if it's a classroom work, just working with simple model. This requires that we should model the reality. How embark on financial modeling, ensure that you draw logical conclusions from the analysis. So if we are able to come up with functional, effective business case that conforms with project reality, we are double sure that the business case will attract sponsors, will attract debt capital, will attract finance, venture capitalists, and that will be able to attract quite a lot of funds into Nigeria development terrain. On this note, I want to thank you for listening. Please be part of the next show. Thank you.